Really. Tonight we have apologies from our chief exec, and Laura is representing the chief exec. We have Megan assisting us with our admin. Ashley, thank you for being here. Chris, also thank you for being here. And thank you for our Democratic Services support, Simon. Uh, Welcome to Councillor Spink. And I think it's the County Press. We've got the County Press here. Good to see you. And we have one member of the public, so welcome, Mr. Aldred, I think it is. We'll come to you, I'm sure, shortly. Let's get going. It's 5 o'clock. The minutes of the last meeting, to confirm as true the minutes. If you've read them, do I have a proposer, Ian?
Yeah, I'll propose.
We need a seconder, please. We need a second. Thank you, Debbie, second the minutes. Any comments? Any comments? Laura? Laura? Any comments on the?
Yes. Sorry, Councillor Stevens, Councillor Fuller and myself were not there.
Okay. That's noted. Hang on. Whoa. Stop. Right. Let's start again. Who is proposing the minutes? Julie. Ending the minutes. Councillor Andre, Debbie. Thank you. Any comments? No comments. Those in favour, let's get back on route. Thank you. For those that are here, if you weren't here, please don't. Who was here? Can you put your hands up, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, we just need to get this right. Sorry, it's okay. We need to get that right. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? There'll be no declarations of interest. Therefore, we can move on to public question time. Maximum 15 minutes. Questions. We have some written questions. If I may, I'm going to move to the public gallery. We have a Mr. Aldred. Mr. Aldred, we're very happy to take your public question. Please go ahead.
I think I remember how to work these things. Is that working? Thank you. I understand tonight you have a decision to make on school place planning and whether to support the procedure. I'm not here to argue against the need for a procedure. I agree that we need a procedure. However, I've read a lot of the supporting documentation on this, and I'm concerned that there are a number of claims in earlier reports which seem to have been omitted from the agenda tonight and from the draft strategy, and I'm pleased that they're no longer there, but they are present in earlier reports that are very negative and often unsupported about small schools. I won't go into massive detail, but there's assertions that they can't recruit and retain staff, that they have poor outcomes, poor quality, lower levels of staff training, staff welfare is an issue, and poorer resources. I don't recognise from my own local school that I went to and my children go to any of those negative criticisms of small schools. In fact, completely the opposite. Tonight, I want to ask whether councillors will join me in recognising the fantastic job on the Isle of Wight that many of our small schools do, and their importance, particularly the central importance of small schools to rural communities on the Isle of Wight, and whether they would join me in saying that I personally would be unable to support a process that has negatively prejudged small schools collectively, rather than examining each small school individually and recognising those that are performing well. Thank you.
Thank you for the little bit of preamble to the questions. Appreciated. Jonathan, would you just like to respond to that?
Thank you. Yes, and thank you for coming and asking your question. All schools are important, whatever size they are. Small schools can do just as well as big schools. I think I can answer your question very simply by saying no one, no school, no premises is prejudged in this process, whatever their size. And that's simply the answer. We're going into a process. We have a policy that we're hopefully approving later this evening. And what that is doing, however, is recognizing that we have a big issue and we have to deal with it as best we can. But there's no prejudging based on size or any other factor at all.
Thank you, Jonathan. I hope that gives you some comfort, Mr. Aldry. Can we move on therefore? Do you have a second question, by the way? Got lots of written. We'll move on to written questions, Jonathan, please.
Chair, I'm conscious, I think it's 6 or 7 written questions here. And obviously they will get a written response. I was going to say, assuming as I was that there were going to be questions here, that I was a little concerned because some questions have to sort to raise the case of a particular school or schools. And to make the point, which I think was implicit in the answer I just gave, that it is incredibly important to understand, to state and underline at this stage that no schools have been identified or named, and that is not happening until September. And so the answers I was going to give we're going to seek as far as possible to address the general issues raised, but not issues relating to particular schools, because it would be wholly inappropriate at this stage. And actually, I think I can probably, for the purposes of our meeting, as I say, in light of the fact that written answers will be sent to all those questioners, the short answer to the point that is essentially being raised is that all relevant considerations are going to be taken into account in the process that is going to take place over the coming months. That is essentially the answer to all the points that have been raised. And I will be speaking further, obviously, when introducing the paper that is before us. I can go through each question individually and answers individually, but frankly, that covers it for the purposes of today.
I think I agree, Councillor Bacon. Let's explain to those here and looking in that the questions are written. They are a matter of record. The answer is a written reply. It is a matter of record, and both will be published on the Isle of Wight Council website for anyone to see. I think for us to read out each question and each response here would be quite laborious, especially as they are, as you refer to, Councillor Bacon, essentially are asking questions about the same thing. If we're happy as a cabinet, I'd be happy for us to take those written answers. We can provide them to the press, or they can access them on the website. And if there are any other comments anyone wishes to make, or Jonathan, is anything further you want to say?
All I would add to what you've said, Chair, is that any of those questioners, or indeed anyone, is very welcome to contact me and contact our team. And we have an active team who are dealing with all queries and answering all queries. Some people are saying that that is not the case. It's untrue. All queries are being received, dealt with and answered. So whether they come to the team or myself, they will get a response. And if appropriate, I'm more than happy to enter into a discussion and meet with people.
Okay. I'm happy with that. Are we happy with that? We're happy with that. Therefore, there being no other public questions and those written questions, written answers will be published. Do we know? Yeah, tomorrow. For those watching, looking in, these will be published tomorrow and accessible as a reply, as the question and the reply by tomorrow on our website. Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Chairman's announcements. I have no specific announcements to make to this meeting, and so I will move on, interestingly, to the report of the Cabinet Member for Children's Services on school place planning. Councillor Bacon.
Thank you, Chair. And in what I say, I will try and be conscious of the fact that there are those questions posed, and I'd hope that what I'm going to say will address some of the points that have been raised there. So if anyone is listening who's aware of the questions, I hope what I'm about to say will assist. Quite a lot has already been said this week. This issue was raised both at the scrutiny meeting on Tuesday, and also there were some questions and comments about it at our full council meeting last night. So some in the room may feel there's a little bit of repetition here, but I make no excuses for that because this is all important information. The paper before us focuses on the issue of place planning, which in essence, in the current national circumstances in relation to population and birth rate, is another name for potential school closure. We shouldn't hide behind other terminology. But it is part of a much wider picture, both nationally, as I've just said, but also locally, because what we are doing here on the island is, and this paper, is part of an overall approach to addressing the issues in education we face. And those are set out and sought to begin to be addressed in the draft education strategy, which was published on the 8th of July. And I would strongly urge anyone who reads and is interested in the place planning strategy to also read that education strategy, which puts it in context. And that overall strategy, it's a draft document at the moment. It's being created and is being developed over the next 6 months as the basis for an ongoing holistic approach to tackling the key issue which we face on the island, which is educational standards. Educational attainment on the island overall is poor. There are some amazing examples of particular success and high achievement, but the overall picture, which is recognised by our position at the bottom of national tables performance, is, as I say, poor. I'm afraid to say that I don't think this has perhaps been properly acknowledged in recent years. There's been a tendency to look for the good stories, the examples of success and improvement, while neglecting the bigger picture. But it is the key issue that we have to address if we're going to do the best for our children. And key to being able to do that is to see that our schools are properly resourced. Getting the school estate right is a key part of the new education strategy, and as in getting the school estate right, place planning, and indeed is essential to it. Schools are funded per pupil. So if you have fewer pupils spread across too many schools, essentially none end up with enough money. And stark figures are presented in the report, indeed the covering report. Paragraph 6 of our covering report on page 10 says that while we have physical capacity at the moment for 10,724 primary age children, in October last year, we had 1,898 unfilled places. And if nothing is done, it is forecast that by September 2027, that figure will rise to 3,056, almost a third. Therefore, addressing the issue of school places because of that per pupil funding issue, essentially will mean that schools can be better funded and therefore they can start to concentrate on standards rather than day-to-day survival. If anyone in this room has been a governor, as I have in the past, recent past, you'll know that the governors' meetings have tended to be looking at the spreadsheets, at the budgets, at how to make things add up, far, far more than looking at how to achieve better results. And that is what the system has driven us to, and it's not right that that should be the key focus of those meetings. Key to the process we're embarking on is the fact it is a whole island process. There have been some localized and piecemeal exercise in the past, but I would say they've probably not been undertaken with a clear island-focused strategic approach, and certainly not without the wider education strategy we now have. And I'd like to think that that education strategy is going to become essentially part of the fabric of the council going forward. That striving for improvement of standards should be something we look to achieve, work on day to day. And so, as I say, I hope that the education strategy we now have, it will be developed, and when it's full form, it will be just as much as our day-to-day lives here at the council as the procurement strategy, or sometime next to Councillor Fuller, dare I say it, the planning strategy. It is also now key to what we do and what we can do that we as a council now have control of our Children's Services Department, and we are no longer in partnership with another authority. This means we now have an island-based team whose sole focus is the island and island children, rather than us being a small percentage of the workload for another body based elsewhere. And it is also key that this process, the paper, place planning paper addresses, has been asked for, guided and informed by head teachers and school staff. I think that point cannot be overstressed, and certainly the documentation you have in front of you seeks to underline that and set that out. So I'd like to say things are now different. I think we have a new honesty about where our educational standards sit and the fact we must do something about them. The problems we face are better understood by decision makers, both through work done over the last year and bearing in mind the fact that those doing this work are now focused wholly on the island. I'm hoping as well that the engagement we have been undertaking over recent months, and which is continuing over the summer, means that parents and the wider public have a better understanding of the issues, or certainly will be given the best possible opportunity to get the best possible understanding. And as I say, the big step forward, an overarching big step forward, is the fact that this is all being done within the context of a clear strategy with the key focus on improving standards. I was a little disappointed, as I said on Tuesday evening at scrutiny, that people in comments and questions were focusing largely on numbers and money. Of course, that is part of it and an important part of it, but this is not a process just about numbers and money. It is about creating a sustainable basis for our schools and achieving the best for all our children. And perhaps alluding to some of the questions that have been asked and the brief comment I made earlier, with that in mind, everything is to be taken into account. In addition to what will help us achieve better standards, we will also be having close regard to our SEN provision, to well-being, to transport, to attendance, to enriching the curriculum, transitions, moving into work, helping students into further and higher education. The list is endless. It is all relevant because it is all important. But we have to start somewhere, and that's what the paper before us is about. It's not going to be an easy process. There will be pain, but I'm confident that what is being done for the right reasons by a dedicated team, and that educational professionals, parents and the public can also be confident that what we are about and the drive here is to achieve the best for our children and young people. There are a couple of other points I make. I know I'm going on a bit, some like me, but a few points were made at full council last night about material in the paper and whether information was set. I would like to stress again, this is an organic process. Engagement is ongoing. We will seek and receive all relevant further information, provide clarity where requested, and correct errors in information statistics. And as I said earlier, respond to any queries, questions, information, whatever is received. And lastly, I will emphasize again that no schools have yet been identified. I said that earlier, and again, it's one of those things that I cannot overstress at this point. Any names that you hear or anyone hears before September will be down to rumour or opinion and should be ignored. And I, conscious we have the press here, I hope the press will bear that in mind. We did have a very unfortunate report a couple of weeks ago, which caused a lot of unnecessary upset, and unfortunately the publication in question refused to correct their report. It served no purpose, other than maybe caused a few extra clicks online. I very much hope we'll have no further instances of such naming, which is totally unfounded. Chair, I've probably spoken enough. I'm not going to deal with the detail in the paper or the strategy anymore, but I will simply take you to the recommendation, which appears on page 10, paragraph 9, and that is that the Cabinet approves publication of the draft school place planning strategy and agrees to proceed with reviewing the level of surplus places and increases to special educational needs provision to support improved education standards within the context of the emerging education strategy. And I look to a seconder.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Debbie. That's seconded by Debbie. Some comments from me if you wish to make any, Cabinet. But I would say, if I may, it's a difficult process that this council and therefore this administration are faced with to improve the standards of education on the island, which we must do. We must do that. And it's not an easy task to put into place measures that will enable us over a period of time to raise those standards. In doing so, we sincerely hope that it is the start of a kind of regeneration where the educational standards on our island will not prevent our young families from moving here, young professionals with careers who will not be afraid to bring their children into our schools. And that is a spin-off effect of lifting the standards of education on this island, a very important part of it, let alone our children and giving them their best chance in life on this island, even if they leave to go to university, to come back as we hope that they would do and assist us in regenerating and improving the lot on this island. It's a difficult task. Just a little personal note from me. When I started, and I know people, councillors here have been here far longer than I have. I didn't become a councillor to be faced with sat here tonight to be considering the effects of closing some of our schools on this island. Absolutely did not foresee that. But in seeing the difficult position that we are in, the task that we face, I am under no illusions that the decisions that we make will be the best decisions that we can make for the best outcomes for our children. And then finally, before I move on to some comments, I come to you, Ian, I would reiterate again, at this stage tonight, we are asking you to consider and vote upon a draft strategy. This is a draft. We must make that absolutely clear. It's a living document. There is more road to be travelled yet before that document becomes definitive and definite. So I just want to make that point. Thank you for your indulgence all. I'll come to you, Julie. Ian, please.
Thank you, Leader. And thank you, JB and Ashley and his team. I think that, to be quite candid, this time last year, we were looking at school closures. There was, it was just, okay, we had to make numbers stack up. We pulled back on that, and there was a reason why we pulled back on it. And the reason was that we wanted a review. We wanted to pull things together for the island, for our island children. I'll tell you what, when you work over there on the North Island, sometimes you start to realise how special the island is and how different providing services and making island life that much better is compared with just across the water. We're not the same. The conditions are not the same. The finances aren't the same. What I would say is that since January, we've pulled together very, very well a commitment to a new education strategy, of which this is a spoke in the will. And I'd say that I was pleased when Councillor Bacon mentioned the send element, because we have an opportunity. It's not just about, okay, what can we cut out? It's what can we put in? We've got to look at the positive areas within the report and the place planning strategy. We've got to make sure that we pull that in. And I'll tell you what, the interest shown by the questions, and indeed the gentleman in the gallery there, absolutely proves a point. We all want to do the best for our schools and our education professionals, and indeed allow our children to aspire to greater things and achieve their full potential and their talent. And I think that that's what this is about. Had we had copious amounts of funding from central government, we still would have had to do the same thing, because we spread the slice of bread too thinly. We haven't got the number of qualified professionals that we would like in the smaller schools and the larger schools and throughout our education system on the Isle of Wight. And we're not alone. We're not alone. Other communities up and down the country have got a shortage of teaching professionals. So I think that we're moving in the right direction. I think that from a year ago to when we were pulling back, and I would say that at that time everyone was saying, get ahead, go ahead and do it. We're doing it now with purpose. We're doing it now with reason. And I want to leave it there, Leader, but I would say that this has a more cohesive feel about it than this time last year. Thank you.
Good point, Ian. Thank you. Julie.
Yeah,
Welcome.
thank you. And I won't talk for long, so we've got a lot to get through. And it was really useful to hear Councillor Bacon going through the report, and of course all the discussion we had last night and on Tuesday as well. So we've had a good discussion, and so seeing all the questions and I'm hearing from the public gallery this evening has been really, really helpful. You know, I'm here supporting this evening for the island. It's not about supporting a council decision or supporting my colleague or supporting cabinet colleagues. This is the island, and we're doing this together because we want all of our children to have the best possible chance of education we can possibly give them, and have taken that holistic view of it as an island, taking a holistic view of the estate as well and what other uses we can use. I think it's potentially exciting, though I think this, you know, got to be causing a lot of angst and uncertainty. We get that, but I think we need to understand the council has to follow a legal process, because that is what we are. That's what's laid down in statute that we have to do. But this is a problem we're going to do together as an island community, and that's where I'm coming from when I support my hand up this evening.
Thank you, Julie. Debbie.
Thank you, Leader. The thing about coming last is that, nearly last after several others, is a lot of what I was going to say has already been said. But what I will say is, when this process started, I was the cabinet member responsible, and I was fully committed to the process. I have never wavered in that, and I remain fully committed to the process, as do all my cabinet colleagues. As has been said, being in this position means that we have to make difficult decisions. But I would stress that this plan, it's not our plan, having been developed through listening to head teachers, parents, and our young people themselves. That engagement continues. As Councillor Jones-Evans said, we are taking a holistic approach, looking at all the factors affecting our children's education, so that our ultimate aim in this is to be able to provide a learning environment in which every child has the opportunity to excel. The team that we now have in place, our children's services team, are absolutely outstanding. They have hit the ground running with this. They have taken on board the work that had already been done, but they have made it their own. So the plan that is before us now is better. But as I said, the engagement continues. So I am confident that having been committed to this process all the way through, the decisions that we ultimately make will be the right ones for our island children, and most importantly, for improving the standards of education on our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Paul.
Thank you, Leader. It's with a heavy heart that we see the report and the potential implications of what may or may not happen in the future. I think nationally we are seeing a declining population. It's not just on the Isle of Wight, it is within the country and in most of the Western world. The population, particularly of young people, are falling, and one of the implications that will have, and I know Councillor Spink has mentioned this previously to me, about the difficulty in making sure our communities remain sustainable. We have a lot of very affluent people on the island, a lot of people that retire here, but we need to be able to provide an infrastructure for our residents to be able to feel that they are supported in later life. I think one of the concerns that I have is that school leaders and councils up and down the country are having to make the same decisions as we are making within this place plan, and this is not just island based, this is nationally based, and I think we have to be mindful of that. At scrutiny the other evening, a couple of issues were raised, not in objection particularly to the school place planning, but questions were raised by councillors concerning the figures that we have with the planning projections that have been made. I've sought clarification earlier on this evening just to make it clear on those projections and why those projections were at the figures that they were. The officers from the planning department has advised me that further to planning was asked to provide education. What was the planned growth where the site's being delivered over 20 units per year? There's 20 units over the coming years. What education requested of them were about planning developments that are currently under construction, those potential areas that have planning permission, and finally those sites with a resolution to grant planning permission from planning committee. So that is the figures that we have. The figures may be higher, the figures may be lower. It depends really on whether the investment is there to create that housing in the future. But that is something I wanted to make sure I clarified for all members of the cabinet. So I think it was an important issue that was raised by members of scrutiny, and I welcome that question. So many thanks to the planning officers to be able to give me that information on the questions that was asked by education. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Paul. Laura.
Well, being number 11 of 12 children, I should say I've probably got quite a lot of family that are going to be affected by this, although I don't know half my family, nieces, nephews, and so on. So as Paul said, it is with a heavy heart that we are sort of faced with this decision. I can assure the members of the public that the cabinet don't sit around dreaming up these things. Oh, what should we do today? You know, let's deal with this. This came as an absolute urgent request from head teachers, governors, and teachers. I sat in a meeting with them in no uncertain terms. They wanted us to act, and they said it was our job to act. This is your job, Laura. This is what you should be doing. So it's with a massive heavy heart that we have to go through this process. And as I say, from personal, it's probably a number of my family will be affected in this as well. So I am thinking of absolutely everybody, but this is a draft report. I do hope people please go onto that website so they can go through to Ashley's team and put those questions through, because this is a tough time for everybody. We're all going through hell. You know, none of us want to take this decision, but it's something that we have to do. And I just hope the public realise that we're just doing a job that we've been directed to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That being all of the questions, comments, Jonathan, do you just want to summarise and we'll move to the vote?
I don't think I need to say anything further in summary, but I should say one thing that was lacking from my earlier address to everyone, and that has been mentioned by a couple of members, but I would like to publicly give heartfelt thanks to Ashley and the team in Children's Services, the education staff who have worked on this. This is just the beginning, I know. There's going to be I was going to use an expletive, there's going to be an awful lot of work over the coming months, but Ashley, thank you. And also I specifically like to identify Jade and Naomi have also put an amazing amount of work into this. And I'd just like that recognised on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll echo those for our team. It feels as though we on the island are controlling and managing our island once more in terms of education after 10 years of another local authority overseeing and managing it, directed, by the way, by the Minister of Education in 2013. You've heard me say it before. I was stood beside Councillor Stevens, who was leader at the time, in June 2013, opened his first letter, and the first letter was from the Minister of Education saying that we would be put in special measures and we were to partner up with another local authority, which turned out to be Hampshire. We renewed that. That was for 5 years. We renewed it for a further 5 years in 2018, and that ended last year. Ashley has come on board, started to build his team, got his team round him. It suddenly feels like we're making progress for the island, from the island. And I do think that residents of this island look towards that to see us doing what we should be doing on our island, for our island. Enough of other local authorities having oversight. We can manage this ourselves, thank you very much, and we will do with the guidance of Ashley and his team. So, and thank you, Ashley, for the work that you've put in and the work that you're going to continue to put in, I know, to bring us through this, to start the healing and the recovery of the education of our children. I've had a proposer, I've had a seconder, and in saying that, I'm going to ask you to vote in which way you wish for a draft strategy. Draft strategy. Those in favour of supporting the draft strategy, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you all, colleagues. And therefore, we will move on to the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care and the Better Care Fund Midway report. Debbie, please.
Thank you, Chair. The paper before you presents the Midway submission for the Better Care Fund. Previously, this has been an annual submission. The reason we have a Midway one is that last year, for the first time, it became a 2-year process, hence the Midway submission. So as you'll see from the paper, the Better Care Fund programme supports the Isle of Wight Council and the Integrated Care Board, although there have been some changes. So it is now the Hampshire and Isle of Wight NHS Trust to successfully deliver integrated working that best supports island residents. So locally, the BCF, as you'll see again, is split into 4 key themes. I won't go into them now, but this fund acts as the government uses it as a mechanism for additional grant funding, such as the Adult Social Care Discharge Fund. What I would like to say is, in the preparation of this submission, it is an extremely lengthy and comprehensive submission on a template that we have to prepare. And a lot of hours and hard work goes into this submission. So I'd like to thank the staff in the preparation. I'm happy to take questions. I can read out the recommendation. If I can just, I think at corporate scrutiny, it was agreed that Cabinet should note the submission. So the recommendation is that Cabinet note the BCF 2023 to 2025 Midway submission. And I look for a seconder. Okay.
And thank you for that. I'll say that again. We're going to note it, so we don't need a seconder. Karen. Oh, you don't want to speak? Okay. Any comments on this? No comments, therefore, we have noted the report and thank those that were responsible for bringing it forward to our attention. Thank you. Therefore, our next item is actually one for me, and it is the, it's listed as the A3056 speed limit review TRO. It's a little misleading because, just to be absolutely clear, this is not part of any, it's not part of the island speed review, which is due to come through to Cabinet later in the autumn. It's not part of that. This is part of a specific scheme, grant funded by government, £2.1 million worth of grant funding to deliver various schemes along the length of the A3056. Now, the A3056 is the road between Sandown and Blackwater, so that unite through Arraton. Just for those that don't make note of the A and B roads, that's the road it is. And the grant funding is to deliver a number of schemes. They've been identified and costed and planned for implementations. There are about a dozen schemes, physical schemes, some altering of those that know the road, of the sharp curve, the sharp bend, not only at Arraton, just past Arraton with the roads to Merston, altering the shape of the shape of the curve is one. There are some other physical alignments, some lineage, some widening, I think, further down the road. There are a number of schemes. This tonight is just one part of the overall scheme, and it is to approve modifications to speed limits along that road. So it's not to necessarily increase or decrease, it's modifications. That could be length, it could be speeds. but these are all appropriate to the circumstances and to the area and to the highway. We obviously have carried out consultations. That's part of the process of all of these traffic regulations order. We've consulted with the parish councils through which that road runs, Newport, Arraton, Newchurch, Lake. We've consulted with councillors, ward councillors, Councillor Brading, Councillor Ellis, Councillor Mosdale, and of course we've consulted with the public. Scrutiny on Tuesday approved noting this and were supportive of the scheme. So there we are. It's a complete scheme of speed modifications. We would not want to tinker and tamper with any of those schemes. They're part of the overall scheme of speed control along the length of the road, delivered and researched and carried out by our highways professionals. It is for us to approve or not the entire scheme, and I look for a seconder, please. Thank you, Ian. So that's proposed and seconded. Any comments? There being no comments, those in favour of approving this scheme so we may implement it ASAP? Thank you, that's unanimous. That leads us on to Cabinet member announcements. Any Cabinet member wish to speak? Julie.
Thank you, Leader. I'm glad you're looking my way straight away, not looking sideways there. You can always rely on me for some good news, can't you? It's just why we start with good news. No, very pleased to see that on the forward plan yesterday, we had an entry for Kingston Marine Park. This is just a variation of the cabinet paper we had back in November 22. The reason why I say this is good news because it means that it's where the film studio is to be located. So it means that that project is moving forward. And had an update today, and they have many reports ready. So they're gathering all the information they need in order to lodge a planning application this summer. So I haven't got an exact date for you. As you know, these things aren't so straightforward. So yeah, just wanted to give everyone that good news that that is moving forward after the delays that's been well documented. And secondly, just want to say this: if everyone saw the really good press release today from the council regarding the progression of the recovery at One Leisure. So please do read if you haven't done. And I know there's quite a few one card holders sitting around the table today, and we're all great advocates of not only the excellent facilities we've got, but also the professional staff that support people within their health journeys. So that's it from me, Leader. Thank you.
And thank you, Julie. And as always, you always come and deliver some good news at Cabinet member announcements that's upbeat and positive. Truthfully, you do that, and it's quite refreshing. We are faced with so many problems. You know that we've been through our funding problems, our issues of trying to deliver services, our staffing issues, and so on. And yet you always manage to come with something that's a positive story. I do thank you for that.
I just forgot one thing, Leader. I do apologise. We managed.
More good
news. We awarded the contract for the work to be done at Sandown Town Hall this week. So gone to a local firm. So yeah, we're really pleased that we'll be get that building back into use for our young people as well. So if that's another youth investment fund, £3.1 million altogether. Brilliant news. So we're moving ahead with that. So that's the end of the good news.
Fantastic, wonderful. And just to say that Ride had a youth fund investment, not 3 million, it was about 600,000-700,000, and it's made an enormous transformation of a property to house that youth services. Fantastic. You will see such a marked difference in Sandown when that's done. Thank you for that, Karen.
Not much to report because I've got lots of things going on. Lots of good news. Unfortunately, it's not in the public domain yet, but I will give updates. But there's some very good news coming.
Thanks, Karen. Laura.
Well, I just wanted to say congratulations and well done to everybody who took part in the Biosphere weekend, which was outstanding. And the way people got the Biosphere and did all sorts of things. I know it's a very boring subject for you, Councillor Jordan, but it was really good. The whole island all got behind it in various little areas, and it was absolutely superb. And it shows the interest that people have got in the Isle of Wight. So I just wanted to say publicly, massive thank you to absolutely everybody who actually took part. And Julie's just reminded me, we've just hot-footed it from the White in Bloom Awards. Once again, all those people taking time and trouble in drought and in floods, creating the most spectacular, beautiful gardens for our island. So yes, thank you.
So thank you, Laura. I was once a judge on, but I'll come to you. In White Bloom, I was astonished when I went to a garden in Wootton it was, with a lemon tree with lemons on it that the owner brought in the winter. It was in a huge pot. I don't know how he did it with a forklift truck or something, and then brought it out in the summer. And here was I walked into the garden. There was a lemon tree with lemons on it. Astonishing. I just noticed for some people, when you mention the word biosphere, thinking, what is the biosphere? And I wonder if you just give us a few words on what the biosphere actually is, Laura.
The biosphere is everything to do with the Isle of Wight, whether it be sea, land, or anything else. It is the entire Isle of Wight that we should be protecting and enhancing.
Thank you, Laura. That was very helpful. Paul.
Thank you. There's lots of things to report, but a lot of it hasn't. Well, I can't actually say at the moment because it's all bubbling away. As residents are probably aware, in a lot of the island, flood 19 reports are in the process of being issued at the moment. One of the things and one of the reassurance that I've been giving to community groups and residents is that I'm there to enhance any support that is required. One of our new corporate priorities is to support the delivery within our Section 19 reports that have been issued by the team working with the government. One of the things that we are seeing on the island is the fact that there is a lot of partnership working. I was talking earlier on at a meeting, an LGA meeting, with other people across the country, and one of the issues that they raised was about reducing the flow of surface water drainage. We're already doing that on the island. We're working in partnership with Southern Water, and they are making real inroads. And I think that is something that we need to acknowledge. You know, the work that we're doing with our water authority, with the Environment Agency, is absolutely fantastic. We do have problems here. We do have problems with our sewage outlets, but it's really heartfelt that Southern Water have stepped up to the plate, and we are able to work with them on a lot of the flood 19, Section 19 issues across the island. And I'm hoping to reinforce that. There are staff that will be joining those teams in the next few weeks to be able to make sure that if flooding occurs again this autumn, we can be much more reactive than we have done in the past, and I really look forward to doing that. Again, another thing about partnership is I would really like to thank Natasha Dix and her team. The coastal protection team was part of the partnership that won a Constructing Excellence Award for the Ventnor Esplanade Coastal Protection Scheme. I think there was quite heavy competition across the country with other authorities, but I think we actually won that award. And one of the aspects of that award was about community partnerships and working with our local communities to make sure we could deliver that scheme. That scheme was delivered on time. It was delivered quite well, and the feedback that we've had from the local community down at Ventnor has been very, very positive. So I'd like to formally thank Tash and the team for their work on the award. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go because, as is often the case, these award schemes usually tend to run in elections, and because of the wonderful world of Purda, members weren't allowed to go to those meetings, those ceremonies. So I missed out on the fun. So hey ho. At the moment, we are sort of like, one of the other issues that we face on the island is that we get very little support for landslips. And again, talking to the community in Ventnor, and I've been talking to shopkeepers, I've been talking to residents at coffee mornings about some of the issues that Ventnor faces. And when you talk to residents, particularly some of the people that are having recurring nightmares after the landfalls that have occurred in St Lawrence and in Bonchurch, it's very, very heartwarming to know that those people are working with the council to be able to ensure that similar things don't happen in the future. And we are in a very, very difficult position. The landfalls that we had in Bonchurch was one of the worst in Europe. So I don't think we can rest on our laurels there. We have a lot of work to do. The previous government didn't really support landslip areas, but we are in discussions in the hope that more recognition will be given to landslip areas. And it's not just about the Ventnor communities, it's also about our road infrastructure as well, the future of Military Road, and the impact that that will have not only on residents, but our wider community, should we lose that road in the future. So I think there is still a lot of work to do, and I look forward to bringing that forward with you, Chairman, as I know that you are taking the lead on Military Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Debbie.
Thank you, Leader. I do have some good news. Our adult social care and housing conference preparations are progressing well. This is an annual event for staff. This year, it's going to be done over 2 days with the same programme being delivered so that as many staff as possible can engage. I was actually at the last one, and it's a really great day, very productive, and I look forward to this year's in October. And interesting that White in Bloom was mentioned, because we also have our residents, our wonderful residents in our care homes, have a Garden in Bloom competition. And I've been asked to be on the judging panel for that, which I'm really looking forward to seeing the horticultural masterpieces that our residents are going to be producing. I can't confess to be a gardening expert. In fact, I'm hoping that I will pick up some tips from them. So I'm really looking forward to that. The last thing I'd like to say is that work is progressing very well on our Community Capacity and Resilience Fund. And the details will be out for that at the end of the month. And I will give further details, but we are very mindful that we are still in a cost of living crisis, that we need, as an administration, we are committed to doing everything that we possibly can to helping our residents, and we are designing this fund so that it will fill in the gaps that other sources can't provide. So work is going well on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Any further comments? Ian, I'll come to you, JB, after.
Oh, well, hopefully, JB, you can bring us back on an upbeat message. I got a bit, I think that we should, keep our feet on the ground and keep working with our officers and staff to make things as well as we can for our people on the Isle of Wight. We know that our housing, homelessness and supporting people, housing delivery areas of social care, adult social care are tipping in in an upward direction, should I say, with finance. Basically, that doesn't mean it's good. It's 300. We're about £350,000 overspent at the moment. We've got a lot of pressures there because when we're supporting people, housing delivery, etc., you know, nothing stands still and prices rise. I'd like to just touch on a couple of elements. I want to give you the figures for housing needs and homelessness. And people in band 2 of the housing register, we've got 283 families in that at this present time. The sad fact is we've got, and this is this can fluctuate from day to day, but if you take it as an approximation, 38 children in bed and breakfast accommodation, 194 families in temporary accommodation, and single people in temporary accommodation, 46. I know that the team, you know, our team are working throughout to get things better, but we are swimming against the tide. We're going to try new ways of additional ways of working. I say new ways of working. What we agreed, or what the directors agreed, Laura Gordian, just along the road from me, is undertaking a programme of work to revitalise the private rented accommodation. So we're not turning our back on any opportunity. What I would say, just briefly, and I'll clear down. What I would say is that we have started a group or committee across various services to bring together our assets, our finance, legal, social care, and housing situation. I think that, you know, that's to the good, because sometimes within a large organisation such as we have, we tend to feel that things are being pushed to one department and then they might sit there for a week or two before they come back. This is going to be more dynamic, more proactive than that, and it's a proactiveness that we're seeking. So thanks to all of those who stepped up to the plate to assist us with that. One thing I will say with regards to, and I'm taking a little bit of Councillor Lucione's news away from her, is that births and deaths, I'm trying to point out the situation with regard to our schools and our everyday life. I'll just say there have been 31 births registered in July compared to 39 in the same period last year. There have been 78 deaths registered in July compared just a moment, please. This is serious. Compared to 68 in the same period last year. So you can see that what we've got is an aging population. Can I say a drop in the birth rate even from last year? So take it from me. This is what we're trying to pull together with the way that Councillor Bacon and Ashley and his team are trying to bring forward. And it's not just about doing one thing, it's about doing everything to try and enhance the chances and the, how can I say, the positive results for our children and indeed the families that look forward to taking those children into adult. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Are we done?
You forgot the very good bit of news, Councillor Jordan. The floating bridge is operational from 5 o'clock tonight.
I was about to speak, Councillor PC Wilcox, except that Jonathan had indicated he'd like to speak before. Thank you.
Just very briefly, Chair, you mentioned the biosphere and what it's about. One of the other things it's about is achieving, supporting the UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals, number 4 of which is quality education. And again, that relates to what I said about the education strategy earlier. In my portfolio, there hasn't really been much time for anything else. I think I used up most of my credits earlier as well. So that's all I just wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. That further clarity about the biosphere. Karen would like to just add something.
I would like to wish Pride a great time this weekend, and it was always very enjoyable, and lots of love to all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. So you're right, Laura. The float, a couple of bits from me, just very briefly. Floating bridge is back on tonight at 5 o'clock. We have suffered from parts not getting to the island because of disruption to the ferries in Southampton. We've worked through that. It was delivered this morning. We worked throughout the day. Parts are replaced, and the vessel, well, it should be working. I hope so. 5 o'clock. It was brought back in service. That was our indication. Just to say also that the team that we needed to start the procurement of a replacement vessel, don't forget that we took a decision to replace the floating bridge, and that team is now in place, and therefore the procurement process is taking place. It's at an early stage. It's early stage, and it takes time. These things, as we all know, the process of procurement, spending public money, but our decision that was taken positive decision to replace that vessel is starting to move. I hope it's going to move a bit quicker than the floating bridge itself, but it's starting to move. Couple of final bits for me. Leeson Road was opened yesterday morning on a one-way system. Leeson Road is a road between Shankling and Ventnor, the main A road. We opened it on single lights, one way, and under a traffic management system. The traffic management system, I attended with Councillor James Evans and Councillor Downer. The traffic management system is the road will be monitored physically by an operative every single hour, 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week until September at least, when we are planning to put the boreholes down. So that's the next stage at Leeson Road, put the deep boreholes at least 85 metres deep. And we're trying to find a way to keep that road open whilst we're putting the boreholes in. That's work in progress. Just want to give you some idea of this. As Councillor Fuller mentioned, the landslides and the difficulties we have in funding for that. Actually, I'm meeting with the DFT and Transport for the South East next week. They're visiting the island, and we are taking them, we being our highways team, taking them to these sites, Military Road, Leeson Road, Gillscliff Road, and so on, to show them the extent is part of our plea for assistance and help in expertise, in funding, building a grant-funded case and a business case for government to intervene. So we're working on that, as we have been forever, actually. We've put in enough requests for money, been turned down in most cases for substantial funding. The next thing is the Military Road. It's going to require substantial funding, but we're going to build a business case and ask government through the DFT, who we have a very good relationship with, to help us with that. But just going back to Leeson Road, I did some quick statistics on this. You know, our senior management, since this landslide occurred, if you've been there, it's within 10 metres of the road, and it's gone down. Largest landslide in the UK, maybe Europe, for many years. It's huge. And over the winter and other areas in Ventnor were subject to smaller incidents. Our senior management team, since that event, till yesterday, 700 hours of senior management time was spent in meetings, negotiations with the contractor, with the PFI contractor, with the consultants, with public consultations, meeting with the public, meeting with the ward councillor, who, by the way, is Councillor Downer, is the ward councillor for Leeson Road, and who himself had 200 contacts. Councillor Downer, during the period of the closure of Leeson Road, had 200 contacts. That's either phone, email, or meetings with our highways team. Extraordinary. That's what your ward councillor work is. 200. That's some effort by Councillor Downer. And it's led to us taking a risk appraised opening of that road. I was there, I saw the first vehicles go through. It was modest, the vehicles. I'm so pleased it's open. We've always intended to find a solution for this. It's been difficult. The road wasn't closed because we took a decision to close it. Nature made sure that that road was unsafe to use. But we've taken a risk on it. Contrary to some narrative you may have seen, read or heard, Island Roads are managing the road as they're managing the entire PFI network across the island, continue to do so. They were out in force yesterday, clearing the roadside, putting the lights in, managing barriers. We had to resolve a disabled parking bay, which they will do. So, and Island Roads are carrying out the 1 hour monitoring every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until and after, of course, because the contract is still in place for another 13 years. So that was great news for Ventnor. We hope we can do better. We're going to open Gillscliff Road, another problem for Ventnor. We're going to open that in August the 9th. You may have seen images. It's a task with cranes and steel netting and deep fixings into the rock face. That will be open, giving Ventnor more life to its existence there. Although it's always been open, of course. Ventnor's always been open, albeit by one road. It's never been closed off. Difficult it's been. So it's happening. Bath Road's another area. That's a private wall that's fallen across the road, and we as an authority are taking legal process to make sure that that is cleared and safe to use. But that's another slightly different process. So there is some good news. During the process, difficult it has been for Ventnor, for the residents and for businesses and visitors there. It's been difficult, and we've been mindful and conscious. We would have loved to have got to the position we are today and will be on August the 9th months ago. It's just not possible because of the safety issues, but we're there now as best as we can be. During that period, we offered some free parking to Ventnor to help some of their businesses. I hope it did. It was free parking. It's still in operation now. And I would say to those that are interested, Ventnor is open. It's open, it's moving, and go and support the Ventnor businesses and commerces there. So there is some good news from me on that.
Yeah, if I would just quickly say thank you so much for inviting me yesterday. It was such a great event to see that road finally open, and I do appreciate you thanking Councillor Downer, who is, I've served with him since I started the council in 2009. He's the most modest, hard-working councillor I've known, and he's such an amazing person. I actually find him really inspirational because he's just quietly effective and dedicated to his residents. I really appreciate you saying that, because I would have done had you not. But and just one quick shout out for one of the biggest creative events on the island we have, which is Ventnor Fringe, where it starts tomorrow night. So we've got 10 days of amazing events right through the town and up as far as Flowersbrook. So it's great timing to get that open. So I hope everyone gets a chance to pop into Ventnor over the next 10 days. Thank you.
Thank you for the shout out. Paul,
Just a very, very quick one. The island planning strategy is still out for engagement. If any residents are not happy with where they are with response to the island planning strategy, this is the opportunity until midnight on August the 19th to make your views known. Thank you.
Yeah, good point, Paul. Thank you for that. We'll move on swiftly to consideration forward plan. You've got a copy. Any comments to the forward plan? Ian, you okay with that?
Fine.
Yeah, we're fine. Jonathan?
Sorry, just one point. On page 11, the decision proposed by full council on 20th of November, Isle of Wight AONB management plan. AONB's changed their name to National Landscapes some months ago, so perhaps that should be amended.
Jonathan, we'll make a note of that administratively and put that right. Thank you so much. Thanks for the correction. No further comments. We'll move on to members' question time. Any questions from any members? Councillor Spink, and welcome.
Thank you, Chair, or Leader, in fact. If I may, I just have some brief questions on a number of items. I wasn't actually going to ask this one, but because it's been raised, I will, if I may, please, and that's the consultation for the island planning strategy. A number of residents in the West Wight, and it may be elsewhere, have found the consultation process extremely difficult. So much so that we are considering in the West Wight having a teaching session to the best we can. There is, I don't know if people have looked at it, an extremely complicated process that you have to go through online before you can answer or make any representations. And that includes stating that you've read various regulations and parts, I think I'm right in saying, of the island plan. Frankly, I reckon that probably a huge number of councillors wouldn't be able to answer it, let alone members of the public. And I am concerned and would like to know if that's required as a matter of law, and if therefore all planning authorities do that, or if it's simply something that this planning authority has decided to do. So I don't know if you can help, Paul, or if you want to take time to consider it and give me a written answer, but it is something I think of importance because it's only a relatively short consultation and people are telling me they don't know how to respond.
I think that Councillor Jarman has asked a similar question to which he got a written response to. So I would ask I will ask officers that response to Councillor Jarman is also circulated to you. I think the issue you have is right, but however, I think a lot of the consultation is imposed upon us rather than what we're doing ourselves. There is a special way to go through that consultation, so we're being very much dictated to. One of the things that I've done since I understood that Councillor Jarman did send that email is I've spoken to our comms team and our library service, and if you are unable to engage by the normal, what is now becoming the normal method, you can go to Freshwater Library, libraries across the island, and respond in that way to the papers. I think what they really want to know and what the officers really want to know is what aspects of the island plan are there issues with, what are the policies that there are issues with, and why you have issues with those policies, and also any evidence that you can bring along to your response can be used. And I know, Councillor Spink, you've done quite a lot of work behind the scenes with a third party to be able to get your support and feedback. And I think, you know, any evidence that they can also provide to the consultation would be welcomed. Certainly, you know, I know that there's been aspects of the island planning strategy that you've not always agreed with, but this is your opportunity to fly, Councillor Spink. Thank you.
I don't know if I'll fly, but I'll certainly take the opportunity. The next question, if you will indulge me, because they're relatively short questions, is the biosphere.
I'll do my best, councillor Spink.
They're short.
Please press.
Is the biosphere, if I may. I'm was heartened to hear that I wasn't able to go, but that the day was a good day. My question is just really food for thought. I'm not expecting necessarily an answer. And that is there any scope for the biosphere being given a legal designation? Part of the problem, in inverted commas, with, in my view anyway, advancing the biosphere is that it's not a recognized land designation, like, for example, an AOMB. So the biosphere, for example, is not a material planning consideration. Is there any scope for lobbying, have a change of government now, lobbying the government for a legal designation? I don't really expect an answer, but
But we'll have a go, councillor Spink, because there's a sentiment that I share with you in that very question. That's not the reason we'll give you an answer, but we'll
I'll
try
leave
and
it-
give you.
Sorry, we've really got to go. So I'll leave you in the capable hands of councillor Bacon, who obviously held her portfolio before me, but probably it's whether we can tie it in with UNESCO. Yeah, you deal with it.
Thanks, Laura.
I was also chair of the then AONB back in 2019, which is the body that put forward the application and was there in Paris when it was awarded. So I do know a little bit about it. It is, of course, an international designation recognised across the world. There are, I can never remember the exact number, about 770 biospheres across the world. We have, I think it's 6 in the United Kingdom, or 7 possibly. Depends if you count the Isle of Man as United Kingdom, I think. But I know the question has been raised before. I believe that our previous MP did raise it on one occasion. I don't believe that suggestion got much traction, but I agree. It's something that should be argued for and put forward. It does affect some very special parts of this country and indeed the world. And if there were national recognition of it, it could be most beneficial for us. Yeah.
I'll undertake, councillor Spink, to raise that with both of the new MPs in due course.
I can say that my final question was going to be of Councillor Jones-Evans, who's left. So I won't burden you with that. I'll simply send her an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for those questions. No further business to do. At 6:22, the meeting is closed. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Chairman.